I'd like to hand the floor to the Director of the United Nations Statistics Division, Mr. Stefan Schweinfest, who will provide us with a welcome and opening remarks. Please, Stefan, over to you. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, everybody from New York. I was just trying to look how many people there are, and wow, I saw a number like in the 200s or something like that. And I'm particularly honored. I'm Stefan Schweinfest, the director of the UN Statistics Division, that I'm the only old person admitted in this room, so I'm very honored. I think you must be the only event where you have the words great and hot in the title of a statistical meeting, so that's already a good thing. So that's already, and I said the main job description when we had this crazy idea of perhaps looking forward how a statistical commission is going to look in 30 years. The main job description is that we should have fun together today. This is bringing a group of people together who are jointly responsible for the future of this very precious professional global community of statistics. And I secretly hope that the future chair of the Statistical Commission in 2051 and perhaps also the director of the Statistics Division are in this meeting today. Some of you in the countries may graduate to become the leaders in your national offices, and so do some of my colleagues who are supporting me wonderfully, and thank you to my team. But I know some of you also want my chair. Which is a perfectly natural aspiration, and I hope perhaps, as I said, the future director is here. Now, for me, looking forward 30 years is a bit interesting, because I was just thinking I can look back 30 years. My very first commission was in 1991. I joined the United Nations Statistics Division in 1989. So I now actually have 30 years to look back to. And before I look forward, perhaps I just wanted to take a few seconds to do that, because I couldn't resist, and I played with the button of 1991 Statistical Commission to refresh my memory how it was. And I was sitting in the back of the room as a scared junior professional and listening to what was going on, and I had no clue what was going on and what was the dynamics and what was going on behind the scenes and so on and so forth. Just a couple of thoughts for the 1991, what I looked at. I mean, it was interesting. The list of participants still includes the USSR and Czechoslovakia. That has changed. And that is not only a geographical interesting anecdote, it had real consequences, because when you look to the agenda item national accounts, there were still two national accounting systems at the time. It was subdivided in SNA and in material product system, because the accounting system in the Eastern world at the time was different. Only with the 1993 SNA, the world became finally unified in an accounting system. So I thought this is interesting. Another thing that is interesting when you look at the 1991 Commission agenda is that environment statistics was included under demographic and social statistics, because it wasn't a freestanding item then. Only with the 1992 Rio summit and on sustainability, environment really became a topic of its own. And when we had the anniversary of the Statistical Commission, we looked back, and I discovered something when I looked at the agenda items. And if you like to do these things, some of you may have a historical inclination, play around with it, because I think you discover something fairly simple. In the 1950s, we were mostly talking about economic statistics, and that was in the post-war area. In the early years, we created the early system of the SNA. In the 1970s, when people talked more about the social dimension and the paradigm of development shifted to include the social dimension, we started to have a lot of topics on social statistics. In the 1990s, and I was part of this, and I just mentioned it, environment statistics started to come in. So you can see how and I would say in the early 2000s, sort of what I like to call the structural statistics, government statistics, rights statistics also are coming in more increasingly. So you see a big arch of development, how the Statistical Commission is, of course, following the development paradigms. And that's the question now. Where is this boat going in the future? And I would like to hear your ideas. What do you think? Not only what do you think and anticipate what the big topics are that we will still be talking about in 30 years, because some of the things will stay on the agenda. And what are the new topics? What are your dreams? I think a couple of things that I see when I look in the future is what is the relationships between data and statistics? Data is so much wider. We have geospatial information and big data. And how is this related with our numerical statistics that we are so used to? How will global statistics play a role? Global statistics used to be the summation of all the national statistics. In order to know global GDP or in order to know global population, what we did, each country calculated their number, we added it up. But now, increasingly, with satellite imagery or so, we can do global statistics directly. We don't need the national data. You can measure the forest area in Africa without asking any African country. So what will that mean for the Statistical Commission, for the governance of our system? And then I was just thinking something crazy the other day. If in the future they put a microchip into every baby that is born, will we be able to do a census by pushing a button and migration statistics? This is perhaps technology may make that possible. Is it ethical? Do we want to do that? So those may be crazy questions that we discuss in the future. So I'm just launching you some crazy ideas so you start the discussion today. And what I really, really hope is the outcome of this meeting is that you start to build a community of the younger statisticians across the world, that you keep in touch, because the global statistical system is something beautiful, and it should not only function at the level of the old guys like me, like the senior or senile statisticians, as I sometimes jokingly say. You are the next generation. You have to organize the 2050 and 51 Statistical Commission, and you need to be responsible and start thinking about this. And the only way you can do it, whoever is the chair and whoever is the director, I can tell you, is if you do it together. So I'm very happy that we have, after this event, there is still the network that we have created. And many of you, I encourage you to join the global network so that you can continue the dialogue, because today is really just the beginning. There are other fora like the International Association of Official Statistics, the IAOS for professional statisticians. They have a junior professional program. So I encourage you to look into that. And I can give you one last thing, a piece of personal advice. Statisticians are rather robust, and there's a lot of longevity. I've been 32 years at the statistics division. There were only 4 directors in that time. So there is a lot of longevity. And I just talked to 2 of the directors, Mr. Seltzer, who is in his high 80s, and Mr. Habermann, who will be 80 soon. And they are still following the Statistical Commission. They are still active in their heart. So you can take the people out of the Statistical Commission, but you can't take the Statistical Commission out of the people. So I have good news and bad news for you. I mean, if you work in the area of statistics, it's a longevity business. It seems to be good for your health because these old guys are still rather robust. But I have bad news for you. You will never get rid of statistics. If you work in this area, it will stay with you even well beyond the day you may possibly retire. So this is it in terms of my opening remarks. I hope you have fun today, and thank you for everybody who contributed, even especially our friends in the Regional Commission. You already make this a global network to put an exciting program together with countries and so many different voices. So I'm looking forward to that. Thanks.
Marcus, you're muted.
Thank you, Alex. Thanks so much, Stefan, for providing opening and welcoming remarks and sharing your experience with us. I'd just like to take opportunity to introduce this event a little bit further and complement some of what Stefan said. Stefan reached out internally within the UN Statistics Division to a group of mostly statisticians and associate statisticians who are sort of younger or young or mid-career level to see if we could test out our informal networks and our own networks of statisticians around the world, all the while promoting use of the global network of data officers and statisticians. And reference to that can be made in the chat box. It's already been promoted there. In the name of arranging this event today, we've done our level best to work across the United Nations Statistical System, as well as with colleagues in national statistical offices to collaborate for the good of this side event. I'll just attempt to share my screen to identify those who have contributed to this event. Yes. So Stefan Schweinfest has given us an opening and welcoming remarks. I'll do my level best to introduce and moderate question and answer when it comes. Bear with me while I attempt to screen share. In the absence of screen share being available, I'll just read out what I plan to say. I'm very grateful to all of the main speakers at this event who are...
Marcus?
Yes.
I see MS Team Quick Guide on the screen.
Thanks for the correction. The main speakers are from Mr. Adam Tipper from Statistics New Zealand, Ms. Muna Al-Masri of the Federal Competitiveness and Statistics Centre, United Arab Emirates, Mr. Pankaj Dwi Prabawa of BPS Statistics Indonesia, Ms. Neo Moka Katlela of Lesotho Bureau of Statistics. I think I'm having trouble with screen share, so I'd like to proceed without screen share if you'll bear with me.
It looks good. It looks good.
Oh, it does? Okay. Oh, it lost me. Okay, thank you. Ms. Kristen Walter of Ordnance Survey, United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. And stressing how we're collaborating at multiple levels, the secretarial services are being provided by Ms. Malgorzata Swek of United Nations Economic Commission for Europe, Mr. Adam Kludzer of the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, Ms. Pauline Leonard of United Nations Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean, Mr. David Rosis of United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia Pacific, Mr. Nathan Rees of the United Nations Economic Social Commission for Western Asia, as well as other colleagues in the United Nations Statistics Division, Mr. Hong Pum Chung, Mr. Pedro Farinas, Mr. Jonathan Gessendorfer, Mr. Mark Eilif, Mr. Alexander Loschke, and Ms. Helen Ross. So I'm grateful that we've been able to collaborate as a collective and do this together. Each country speaker will be introduced by one of the colleagues working in the UN Secretariat. We make for this to be, or try for this to be, a relatively informal event, at least in the sense that speakers are encouraged to speak their professional views, or not necessarily being attached to those of the office that they represent. We want to think big and exchange ideas. Following all 5 presentations, we hope for open question and answer. Going by the fact that we have a large number of sign-ups, we'll probably refer to the chat box, and I'd encourage questions via the chats and even use of thumbs up and love heart or smiley face icons if you see a question in the chat box that you'd like asked or like to be referred to during question and answer time. At this point in time, I fear that we may be overwhelmed with questions, but let's see how we go. In the event that our 75 minutes today is not enough, we can continue conversation with one another via the global network of data officers and statisticians to talk about conceptual topics on official statistics. And one other request, the naming of your name in the Microsoft Teams chat box seems to be pretty good, but if it looks ambiguous, please identify yourself by name, organisation and country as relevant if you wish to ask a question. This will help give those answering the questions context. So whet your appetite for some of the ideas we discussed in preparation for this meeting. We considered things like the UN Statistical Commission in future further tackling misuse of official statistics, as we may be overwhelmed with fake news via mass media. The Statistical Commission expanding communications with geospatial information experts further into the future, wondering whether the Statistical Commission could ever reach a conclusive state in achieving balance between privacy and confidentiality while meeting demand for big data to be disseminated fast. and other issues such as technology advancing to the points where the core work of national statistical officers today, such as population and housing censuses and enterprise and household surveys, for better or worse, may no longer exist. I'd like to, with that, I'd like to hand over to my colleague David Rosis in UNSC, who'd like to encourage some audience participation before we turn to our main speakers. Please, David.
Thank you very much, Marcus. I hope you can see my screen. So before the panelists present the hot topics, I think it would be good to get your view on the hot topic of the 2051 Statistical Commission. So I'll ask you to either use your smartphone and scan the QR code you can see on the screen, or click on the link that will be given in the chat box to respond to our question for you. What do you think will be the hot topic or the hottest topic of the 2051 Statistical Commission? So I'll leave that on the screen for a few more seconds so that you have time to use your smartphone and scan the QR code.
Thanks very much, David. We can leave it on screen for a few seconds more. I'll now take opportunity to introduce the first speaker. The first of our country speakers is Mr. Adam Tipper of Statistics New Zealand. He's a senior design analyst in Statistics New Zealand's System of Environmental and Economic Accounting team. Adam's been leading the strategic and technical development of the SEA team since 2016, driving the program toward focusing on greenhouse gas emissions and how it relates to economic activity for the benefit of joined-up decision-making for the good of both environment and economy. It's about 3 a.m. in New Zealand right now, so we'll view Adam's presentation via video. We tested the video prior. The sound may be a little bit soft at first. I'd strongly encourage use of headphones if you can, but please, Alex Loschke, if you could start the video of Adam's, please.
Alex, wait,
Good morning. I'm Adam Tipper. I'm going to talk to you about why and how climate change is going to be the hottest topic at UNSC in 2051. Climate change is already with us, and the UNSC has already taken strides by preparing the statistical system for climate change, now being regularly part of the UNSC agenda. Recent significant steps have included the 2016 recommendations for climate change to be part of the multi-year working programme of the Commission, the CES recommendations for climate change indicators, and of course, the advancement of the CES Central and ecosystem counting frameworks. However, climate change will not pass over us anytime soon, so neither will data needs. The latest UN EPE report stated that the world is heading for a rise in global temperatures in excess of 3 degrees a century, far above the 2-degree goal of the Paris Agreement, and much above the point at which the risk of climate change on human health, food security, water supply and economic growth take effect. Climate change and its implications for economy and society are here to stay in some form or another this century. Before the 2-degree goal is reached, countries will undergo transformational change to meet emissions reductions targets. But even before such limits are reached, the impact of climate change will be directly felt as the frequency of extreme weather events has already increased and is only likely to increase further. It's against this backdrop of systemic economic, societal and environmental change that the statistical system will continue to evolve. This map shows that climate change is already with us. Global carbon dioxide concentrations are now at points far exceeding those estimated over the last 800,000 years and have already risen dramatically in the last 50 years. This has led to rising temperatures, with rises of 1 to 2 degrees since pre-industrial times already experienced by many countries, and 3+% rises observed in the upper northern hemisphere. With changes in global temperature comes glacial ice melt, droughts and other extreme weather events, and ocean acidification. These changes will disrupt our production and consumption patterns, our environment through biodiversity loss and species displacement, and health, civic engagement, and cultural identity. What will become clear as climate change impacts become more observable is that economies and societies are nested within environmental bounds, and this mind shift will have ramifications for how we think about meeting information needs. It's worth reminding ourselves of the enormity of the task ahead for mitigating climate change to show how transformational change will need to be. If we go back around 30 years to the Rio 1992 summit where sustainable development was the hot topic, we can see global emissions have increased 62%, or around 2% a year, but avoiding critical global warming limits requires emissions reductions of around 7% a year to 2030. However, the recent COVID-19 pandemic is not likely to shift this trajectory. While New Zealand is clearly not representative of global emissions, the pattern of rebounding emissions, along with economic activity that we have seen, is likely to be seen elsewhere. Recently, the IEA has also reported that global CO2 energy emissions have rebounded, with December 2020 estimates being 2% higher than those in December 2019. The Rio summit saw the signing of the UNFCCC treaty and the development of the Kyoto Protocol and the Paris Agreement, and subsequently the progression of the SEA to enhance information needs for sustainable development. Just under 30 years on, the climate situation has worsened, with the demands of this on the statistical community becoming increasingly observable in recent years. So what lies ahead for the statistical community over the next 30 years? In 2051, we will be living with climate change, and the statistical system will adapt for a future with climate change. This, however, is more than an increased production of climate change-related statistics. Emission statistics are already well produced, but will likely gain increasing prominence, potentially even becoming as significant and timely as headline economic and social statistics, as well as expanding to shine light on new levels such as consumption, subnational and tourism, which are currently less focused on. Adaptation statistics will become pertinent as more information around where the world is heading to in terms of global temperature change comes forth. And as the context of global environment changes and pressures for statistics become more urgent to deal with rapid climate change, other economic and social statistics will also be impacted. As a bare minimum, the context of economic statistics will change as nations strive to reduce emissions but maintain economic activity data and jobs. And social statistics may need to record the impact of climate change events on communities, resilience, and cohesion. But much of these information needs will be spatial given the localized impacts of climate change. All of this information will be vital in the future as climate change progresses, and without doubt it will be the hottest topic of UNSC 2051. Thank you.
Thanks very much to Adam Tipper of Statistics New Zealand for putting forth the case for climate change to be the hottest topic 30 years from now. I'd now like to hand over to my colleague Nathan Rees in Beirut, who will take opportunity to introduce our second speaker. Please, Nathan.
Okay, thank you, Marcus. So I'm pleased to introduce our second speaker, Ms. Mona Al-Mazroui, who is a lead statistician in the Industry Statistics Department, focusing on tourism at the Federal Competitiveness and Statistics Center in the United Arab Emirates. Mona has previously worked as a fellow within the United Nations Statistics Division in 2019. So it is very pleasing to see that following that experience, she is able to join us from the UAE as she continues her career in official statistics. Her presentation is titled Digitourism, and I'll give the floor to Mona to start her presentation.
Thank you, Nathan. And hello, everyone. My name is Mona, and I will be talking about digitourism. Can you view my presentation?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So, time is moving very fast. When I was a kid, I was inspired by this Jetson cartoon. Actually, this cartoon was produced in 1962, and it was talking about the future in 2062. Back then, I didn't understand that this was the predicted of future. I was interested with the flying car, with the video conferences, and with the robots. But when I think about it now, most of this prediction is already exists, and it's only 40 years earlier than the predicted year. So I think the future will be amazing. But how the statistic will be look like in the future, and are the policymaker will be interested in statistic or more into predictions? So the answer is no, they will be, the statistic will be important, and to many reasons. We in United Arab Emirates, the government of UAE had prepared a 5-decade plan for that aim the youngest to prepare the young generation to be prepared for the future. One of the main plan was about the economy. One of the pillars was about economy. As Mr. Stefan said, the future may be more about the economic statistic and the economy in general. So the UAE government and the UN had worked on this report. It's identify 6 global transformations that will happen in the economy in the future. For me, as I was interested in the exabyte economy. This economy is talk about AI, big data, bitcoins, digital economy, and digital transformation. As you know, that the digital transformation affected all the industry, including the tourism. So I'm responsible about the tourism statistic, and I put some of the digital transformation that will be in the future. So first we have the digital passport. The digital passport already exists nowadays because of the COVID-19. So before COVID-19, we didn't have a digital passport. So imagine that in the future, there will be no digital passport. There will be a chip inside our body, which allow us to travel anywhere, anytime without any restriction. So I think it will be amazing, but at the same time, from statistic point of view, will the national statistic offices will be able to manage all the huge transportation, the tourist movement by nationality and place of residence? I'm not sure about that, but let's wait and see. The second thing is the robot hotels. So this robot hotel is already exist in Japan. And imagine if all the hospitality industry in the world moved to digitals and robots and AI solutions. I think the customer or the guest, the hotel guest, will have completely different experience from the time they enter the hotel. They will be able, the hotel will be able to recognize the hotel guest through facial recognition, and he can go directly to his room because the check-in and check-out process will be much easy through the identity chip in his hand. So I think there will be a lot of information and a lot of data on that time because everything is digitalized. But the question is, we as a national statistic offices, can we get this information by free, or maybe in the future they will ask us to pay for it? Third, and this is the most interesting, the space hotel. Imagine that this hotel will be ready in 6 years from now. Actually, for me, I will try to book to have a reservation from now for this hotel, because it will be completely new experience. And you know that all countries now are they want to go to the space, to Mars. They want to explore the other world. So I think in the future, if we have a lot of hotels in the space, we as national statistic offices, we will have difficult, because who will be the owner of these hotels? Is it related to one country or a group of countries, or only by investors? So how can we collect information in country level, for example? So these are all the questions that came into my mind regards the tourism digital transformation. As I told you, from my humble opinion, I think the statistic will be important in the future, but we need to do a lot of things to be able to leverage the digital transformation. First, instead of firefight approach in the classic statistic, we need to start to use scenario planning and scenario analysis for all subjects, for all statistic subjects. For example, will the tourism be affected by digital transformation? What type of digital transformation? We need to identify that. Second, I think we need to start building relationship with individual, society, and private sector, because they will be the data owner. So we need to deal with them in order to get the data in the future. And we need to make sure that the data source is legal. We don't want anyone to sue us in the future. Third, education and capacity building. We will need a lot of scientific and technology and digital skills for future, because without them we cannot build any AI solution or AI algorithm for our scenarios. Finally, we need to invest more in the digital infrastructure, because like the quantum computer, if we have a lot of quantum computer, we can solve all the complicated problems in a few seconds, and we will have real-time data anytime. So in the end, I just want to ask you, are you willing to sit and relax and wait for the change to happen, or you will start shaping the future of statistics from now? It's your choice. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mona, for a very insightful presentation. I will give the floor to David Roustis from ESCAP to introduce our next speaker.
Thank you, Nathan. So our next panelist is Mr. Panchadwi Prabhawa. Pancha holds a Bachelor of Applied Statistics and is a statistician at BPS Statistics Indonesia. Pancha has a strong interest in human mobility statistics and spatial statistics. From 2018 to 2020, he worked in the Population and Labor Mobility Statistics Division, where he contributed to the development of the use of mobile positioning data for human mobility statistics. He is now part of the Transformation of Statistics Division in BPS Statistics Indonesia and works on institutional and statistics business process transformations. Pancha's hot topic for the 2051 Statistical Commission is the strengthening of national statistical systems through big data. Pancha, over to you.
Thank you, David, for introducing me. Good evening from Indonesia, everyone. In this event, I will share with you my opinion about the hottest statistical topic in 2051. I'm sorry I didn't prepare any slides, but I will share to you from oral speech. It is not a strict topic, but it can be evolved to discuss in the next 30 years from now. Okay. Official statistics as the predominant source of information for government and policymakers will face challenges in a new era of data ecosystem. In the future, the need of official statistics will be more diverse, as well as the need of easier access and data interoperability, including microdata. On the other hand, the increase of mobile residents, especially in urban areas, necessitated a reduction of respondent burden. New technologies allow the emergence of various alternative data sources and the improvement of administrative data quality. The new ecosystem challenges the role of governments, especially the National Statistics Office or NSO, on data. NSO cannot just be a standalone organization to provide official statistics. We all know this alternative source of data, that is satellite imagery, location tracking, marketplace transaction, and other big data types, have a potential to filling the gap of official statistics. We need to update the vision of national statistics system. We need to make a new strategy of the collaboration and partnership with data holders and data providers. We need to change the government view of statistics through the data stewardship strategy, so that how this new source of data, which is private goods, can become a public goods. In the future, the urgent needs for better data governance will lead every country to construct and develop a better national strategy of statistical development. Upcoming discussions will be focused through redesigning statistical framework and its implementation on regulation, re-identifying NSO mandate in data governance, data privacy and security, harmonized statistical business process in every statistical agencies, and data interoperability and integration. I hope in the future, there is not only statistical organization and statistical agencies that have a clear role in national statistical system, but also data holders and data providers. We need to embrace big data. The use of big data for official statistics can enable NSO to extend their roles as a decision support and early warning systems for the government. In the end, we can nurture data as a strategic asset in a better policy making, better policy execution, and better delivery of services for everyone and everywhere. Finally, I would like to thank UNSD for holding a side event on data stewardship last week. It is a great event for me. When we can make a better governance of data, we can also make better utilization of data. Making better use of data for better lives. That will be a great discussion in 2051. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pancha, for sharing with us your vision of statistics in the future. And I really very much agree with you on the better use of data for better life. I think it's a very good motto. So now I'll give the floor to my colleague Edem from Addis Ababa. Edem, à toi la parole.
Merci beaucoup, David. Hello, colleagues from all over the world. My name is Edem Kossi. I am from Togo, a small but great country in West Africa. I'm an associate statistician at the UN Economic Commission for Africa. I'm very glad and proud to introduce to you the youngest speaker today. Her name is Neo Mokakatlila. She's young, she's smart, she's from Lesotho, Southern Africa. Her presentation will be on the future of employment. The COVID pandemic has affected the job market. We are now working remotely. There are also some other emerging issues like automation, robotics. I won't say more. So Neo, she's an assistant statistician from the National Account and Enterprises Statistics Section at the Bureau of Statistics in Lesotho. Prior to joining the Bureau of Statistics, Neo, the young Neo, has worked for Standard Lesotho Bank on Know Your Customer project. She holds a bachelor degree in economics from the National University of Lesotho. Neo, you have the floor.
Thank you, Adam. Hello, everyone. My name is Neo. So I will just share my presentation here with you. This topic, the future of employment, was indeed inspired by the global health pandemic that has led to job disruptions, and it has caused a double disruption scenario for workers together with automation, because now employers and agencies started looking for other ways of work while we had to work remotely. And they ran to technology for that. And then we had to keep the production going on. Nobody wanted to affect production. And even before the pandemic could come into place or into the picture, the whole world was already going through automation, but the pandemic only came into the picture to speed up the process. As we have seen, as we are meeting online today, it is basically because of the pandemic, even more than the automation or the technology.
Neo, just a quick interruption. Can you please put your presentation into presentation mode? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Thanks.
Yes. So how will this issue of employment evolve, or how did it evolve? There has been the first industrial revolution, the second, the third, and now we are talking about the fourth industrial revolution. And it is being driven by technology, basically. It's new technologies such as artificial intelligence. They may allow a larger segment of the labor market to improve their productivity and to access better paying occupations, and may help promote inclusive growth. Most of the people, or most of us, when we talk about technology and automation and robotics, we fear that we may lose our jobs without even looking into what opportunities do they bring for us? What will they bring for us in the future? Yes, automation will ultimately create many jobs, as it may require a new set of skills. Let me make an example of when the auto teller machines were introduced. I think the bank tellers themselves were worried about their jobs. But what happened with the ATMs being put in place in many places? The banks saw that they can employ or open more branches, hence employing more tellers. That only meant for what it meant for tellers was that the tellers needed now to improve their skills that they have. Yes, it changed how they worked, but it didn't take away their jobs. Yes, certain jobs will be taken away, but not all jobs. What are we doing today to prepare for this automation and robotics and the era of technology? It seems that what technology, it will make our job easier. So some jobs will be automated first and others last, and others would mean redefining certain occupations. So around the issues of employment in the next 30 years, I think the discussion that I thought will be taking place in 2051 will be about adjusting to the radical changes caused by technological advancements. The world will always need human brilliance and human skills, but it would redefine. It will be redefined by technology, because humans now will have to work better with technology to improve production. Yes, machines may supply us with a new perspective, but they won't bring the judgment or the genius, the genuity. The people will bring that. So it all comes up to the values, and it's all about the people. But the people will first have to be empowered by improving their skills and preparing them today for what it means for people and for workers, and even for us as statisticians. Will we be able to handle the data that comes with technology? Because there will be a lot of data. There will be data everywhere, but will we be able to handle that? So what can we do as statisticians today? Because technology will mean more data will be there. Do we have the skills as the statistical officers to handle the big data? Are we empowered? What are we doing today as national statistics officers to be able to stay in the job? Or for some of us as employees at the statistical officers, we need reskilling. We need to be able to collect data. So what should we do today? Today we need to integrate statistical systems for rapid data collection and timely data collection. Maybe we may have to look into conducting telephonic interviews, but question is, are we prepared as Africans or as the world or as statisticians or national statistics office or the international statistical community? Are we prepared to mine that data? Do we have the required skills? Will we still remain relevant? So we need to look into our occupations and ourselves as the statistical community to be able to come up with relevant indicators. And by that time, there'll be so much data that we will need to design our questionnaires to be so short for self-enumeration and telephone interviews, but still coming up with relevant indicators. So when we're able to come up with to produce the data that is needed to come up with the skills within the national statistical officers, we will then be able to inform our governments with policy that is appropriate. So we need to put up certain infrastructures in place so that the governments will make those policies that will allow coverage, because technology comes with certain infrastructure such as the internet, the smart tabs, so we will be able to do our job better. So which are the skills that we need to be redefined? That is a question of us as the statistical community. It is our responsibility to inform correctly the people today so that it doesn't bring loss of jobs to certain people. So we need to reskill and upskill, and also our governments and agencies will need to work well with the education providers within our countries to come up with training so that we respond to this rapid technology. So it does not necessarily mean loss of jobs. It means redefining certain occupations. It means being more creative, but it will be informed by data. Thank you. That is all I prepared.
Many thanks, Neo. You made it clear, reskilling, upskilling for the statistical community to get ready for the topics in 30 years. Mark Alive, please, up to you.
Thank you very much, Adam, and thank you very much to all of our participants and speakers so far. My name is Mark Iliff, and I am a geographer here within the UN Statistics Division. One of the few, but hopefully soon to be one of many. And today, the potential and power that geography brings to official statistics, really after the past year, is now beyond question. Even in our discussion today, from climate change to artificial intelligence, it is clear that our future will depend on the commoditization of and access to geospatial information. Just over the past year, we have all seen the proliferation of interactive dashboards on the prevalence of COVID-19, with countries making great progress to mainstream the integration of geospatial information, demonstrably bringing statistics to life. These efforts have effectively enabled complex tabulations to be presented clearly to all in society, informing and empowering all to make better decisions, regardless of whether they're decision makers at the highest level or the most vulnerable in our society. Simply, as the statistical profession transforms itself to meet the needs of the Commission in 30 years, the power of geography with geospatial information as the main currency of geographic location will be at the forefront of that transformation and will help the statistical profession remain rigorous and relevant to the challenges, not just over the next 30 years, but to the future beyond that too. And it is on that basis that it gives me great pleasure to introduce our last discussant of this debate, Ms. Kristen Water of the Ordnance Survey of the United Kingdom, the UK's national mapping agency. She is the primary author of the report Future Trends on Global Geospatial Information from the UN Committee of Experts on Global Geospatial Information Management, UNGGIM, a sister organ of ECOSOC, the Economic and Social Council, alongside and in solidarity with the Statistical Commission. She is recognized as one of 50 rising stars by Geospatial World, the geospatial industry publication, which our venerable director, Mr. Stefan Schweinfest, is recognized as one of the geospatial elder statesmen. So potentially the future director of the Statistics Division will be a geographer. Therefore, on that basis, provocatively, we couldn't have a better speaker to look towards how the Statistical Commission and the broader environment that the Commission itself finds itself in will look in 2051. Kristen, the floor is yours and the slides will be on the screen. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Mark. I have to apologize. My laptop has a few issues, so Mark is going to share the slides for me. Oh, here it comes. Thank you very much. So yes, I will be looking at the geospatial element. And the next slide actually takes almost a step back and is really trying to ask the question, what is the world going to look like in 2050? Can we look at the next slide, please, Mark? Oh, thank you very much. So I don't think it comes as a big surprise that the world in 2050 will be characterized by a significant amount of challenges that probably aren't that much more different from what we're experiencing today, but will most likely be much more significant than the way we're experiencing these in our everyday life. On the other hand, there are a significant amount of opportunities, technologies that emerge that will mature and provide significant opportunities. So what are these challenges or these issues that we really need to address in the next 3 decades or on even further after 2050? These global trends range from expanding urbanization to concerns around food production, a growing population, the need for sustainable land management and development, as well as a growing inequality that is really putting the globe under stress. Of course, it won't come as a surprise that climate change and fewer natural resources will certainly pose new challenges in the decades to come. However, also that the way in which our society is organized, globalization in particular, has really amplified some of those structural threats that climate change and as well as the emergence of new infectious diseases pose. However, what we can see as well on the left-hand side is really that science and technology have already started to focus on solutions in order to make the world better and enable us to deal with some of these challenges that arise, for example, from climate change. But also we see that ongoing social and economic progress provide us with plenty of room to be optimistic in the future. Not least, if I use one particular example, we are seeing that literacy rate is increasing significantly year on year. And as part of that, excuse me, as part of that, we can of course tell that foreign direct investment is likely to be a positive impact because of improvements in economics. So looking at this slide right now, it won't come as a surprise that I'm, of course, making the case for geospatial information as an enabling force for positive impact. And all these different elements that will really shape the world in 2050. However, quite often we hear about geospatial being something special, but actually it really isn't, because everything happens somewhere. It ranges from the sat-nav in our cars to the apps that we have on our phone to the survey of our homes. So in Ordnance Survey, we did a study in the UK trying to understand how often an individual relies on geospatial information every single day. And the answer is that for the UK, it's at least 40 times every single day we have in interaction with geospatial information, whether we realize it or not. This can range from broadband providers that enable me to speak to all of you right now, the wider utility providers, waste collection, property sales, addressing, insurance, of course, delivery services as well. Infrastructure development, whether it's housing, whether it's road networks, are all relying on geospatial information. So do emergency services. Local services that ensure that hospitals, roads and schools are built where they are needed within the community. And then, of course, we all know Google Maps, Bing Maps and Apple that enable us to travel from A to B in the shortest amount of time. Can you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. So as Mark has already alluded to, in September last year, the UNGGIM, or the United Nations Committee of Experts on Global Geospatial Information Management, published the 3rd edition of the Future Trends Report. And this report really takes a look at the next 5 to 10 years, but provides us with a really good understanding of what also the time after 10 years and further into the future are likely going to look like. If you haven't come across the Future Trends Report yet, it really is, it provides a consensus view from throughout the geospatial community, bringing together our knowledge on technology, on innovation, on policy developments. And it really ranges from a variety of different topics, focusing on data privacy and ethics, digital trends, artificial intelligence, big data, data analytics, as well as capacity building. And we've come up with almost a short list of trends and drivers that we believe are going to have the most significant impact, not just on the geospatial industry, but also more widely, where geospatial information has a real impact to make. And that will be seen on the next slide. Perfect, thank you so much. And I hope it doesn't come as a surprise that what you're seeing here maybe doesn't look geospatial. There isn't necessarily a lot of words relating to geography, but actually we're seeing words such as data integration, new data gathering opportunities, crowdsourcing, digital twins. We're seeing more and more that geospatial, again, is nothing special. It interacts and works together with a variety of different markets and industries. Of course, I can't go through each and every example here. However, I've tried to almost focus on some of the more general ones. So for example, as the data ecosystem becomes more complex, this notion that 80% of information has a spatial component increases the relevance of understanding the location or where something is. It is anticipated that mobile data collection, crowdsourcing, and social media are likely to have the greatest impact over the coming decades. These forms of data collection will enable accurate, near real-time applications that are increasingly demanded by a variety of different users of geospatial data. These developments have fueled and will continue to fuel an explosion in the volume of data and currency of data, driving down the cost of data capture in general. With new developments in intelligent transport systems, for example, the growth of big data and big data mining, there has been a significant increase in the demand of geospatial information, particularly highly detailed, near real-time data. These, for example, enable urban planners to monitor the building information, facilities, infrastructure, and indoor environments to enable seamless indoor-outdoor mappings, modelings, and data handling. But very specifically, city municipalities have really emerged as a highly engaged user of geospatial information, particularly since the rise of smart city solutions and digital twin technology have become available. Early examples of digital representation of city infrastructure have enabled municipalities to monitor and to simulate scenarios related to climate change and flooding events, while mitigating risks and increasing infrastructure resilience. This view, as I've mentioned earlier, that everything happens somewhere, will drive many of the changes in the global economy as geospatial really enters the mainstream, and we could argue it actually already is part of mainstream. Developments in location-based applications have transformed how services are consumed, and the rise of autonomous systems have shaped the increasing need for near real-time geospatial information. The next decades will see an unprecedented change in the way in which geospatial information will shape and be shaped in the global economy. And if we're now moving on to the next slide, which somewhat is actually focusing on today and not necessarily on the next 30 years up to 2050. What we have seen really is that throughout 2020 and of course now in 2021, COVID-19 has accelerated the application of many of the trends that you've seen on the previous slides in ways that could not have previously been imagined. For example, we had to temporarily hold on-ground data collection, which required the rapid identification and use of alternative data sources, and the need to integrate data from multiple sources whilst maintaining its provenance and trust. In the post-COVID-19 world, it is likely that the number of trends will even further accelerate sooner than we're actually expecting. So we could argue to a certain extent that the pandemic has very much underlined how geospatial infrastructures have become an essential component of disease prediction, of prevention, and of course, response, ranging from analysis of spatial big data to trace people's movements, to using contextualized data, digital maps, and technologies to predict behavior, and from visualizations that make data more easily accessible, and of course to machine learning techniques using aerial and satellite data. All of these techniques support the assessment of how environmental changes may impact infectious disease transmission. So several trends such as data interoperability, the real-time information, and connectivity have only gained in momentum, reinforcing how interconnected our world is and improving the global understanding of the interconnections between people and places. The very last slide has a quote from Bill Gates, which he made in the mid-1990s, saying, "We always overestimate the change that will occur in the next 2 years and underestimate the change that will occur in the next 10. Since the 1990s, a huge amount has changed relating to innovation, technology, but also the impact on climate change on our everyday lives. So we really need to start asking, are we not actually underestimating the change in the next 2 years because the pace of change is consistently increasing? So in order to conclude my argument, geospatial information has been crucial in the past. It is relevant today in our everyday life and as we are responding to COVID-19, and undoubtedly it will enable our future as we're dealing with challenges relating to climate change and we're moving towards the 4th industrial revolution. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much for that, Kristen, for that very engaging and insightful talk. And I'd like to take the opportunity to hand over to mon collègue, David Rassus. Allez-y, mon ami.
Merci beaucoup, Marc. So I would like to thank all of you who responded to our question. And I think it's, if you can see the screen, it's very interesting because basically what you think will be the hottest agenda topic in 2051 is pretty much what our panelists described. So a lot of you mentioned climate change, as Adam talked about, but there's also a lot of people that mentioned big data, the use of big data, the use of technology, and that was really all about the presentation from Pancha and Leo. Some talk about the use of administrative data and confidentiality, as Munia was talking about, and I also see a few of you responded that one of the hottest topic in 2051 will be Martian spatial information. So I kind of look forward to that one. And we also had a few people responding geospatial information, so that is quite interesting. And I also note that what Stefan was saying, there are also some topics that could stay quite stable, and quite a few people responded that census will be the hottest topic in 2051. So thank you very much. Over to you, Marcus.
Thanks very much, David. I'm so grateful and thank you to every one of the country speakers. That was wonderful to get a broad range of topics, and you each were given full reign to choose the topic of your choice. And thanks so much for being bold and sharing your topics with us. We're now kind of entering a little bit of time where we have opportunity for question and answer. I know we're scheduled to end at 30 minutes past the hour, but I believe we could go maybe 10 or 15 minutes beyond that. I'll chat with Steph. I see you nod. Thank you, Stefan. Maybe until 40 minutes past or 45 minutes past the hour. The way I'd like to handle question and answer is, if you'd like to ask a question, you can put your hand up, but I don't think we could guarantee that we could get to you. I'd like first to scroll through the chat box and first offer opportunity to any one of the 4 speakers, Muna, Panja, Kristen, and Neo, if they so wish to comment on any of the questions in the chat box. I'll try my level best to synthesize some of the issues in the chat box. I see some questions and comments raised about big data and the 2030 agenda. Could big data oust the conventional production of official statistics? This is from an anonymous questioner. I'm afraid I can't identify the questioner. And the tone seems to be, does innovation and another wave of industrial evolution fast forward statistical services? We're touching on data stewardship and so on. There's talk in the chat box about data as a hot new commodity and will it be traded like a good? And I encourage further questions in the chat box. I did see one earlier as I try to scroll about the future of labour. I wonder if that's of interest to Neo. But First, I'd like any of the 4 country speakers, if you'd like to take the floor, please go ahead right now and share any comment you may have on the questions you see in the chat box. Maybe I'll offer to Muna in the first instance. If you'd like to take the floor, please go ahead now.
Thank you, Marcus, but I can't see the chat box. I can't find it. I don't know why.
Okay, I wonder if there was a question directed closely to digitourism and related. I think there was some more comments on futuristic nature in general. If any of my secretarial colleagues can help me out here as I try to skim through the questions, that's appreciated. If there's a question directed for Muna, please step in. Otherwise, I'd like to give the opportunity to the second speaker. Oh, sorry, David, go ahead.
Yeah, I think many people in the chat, our panelists talked about the use of technology, of big data, and a few people in the chat box mentioned, what about privacy? What does it involve? I mean, when we talk about using administrative data, big data, all of this. Maybe Pancha, if you want to respond to that, since you presented on big data.
Yeah, okay, David. I think the national policies need to be updated. The policies need to keep up with the development of technologies. In Indonesia, the regulation of statistics are still outdated. The UNESCO needs to invest in a new technologies and update the framework and rules of data access and privacy restriction. So this problem will be solved. I think we need to update our policy, statistical policies. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Maybe I'll welcome if the next speaker, I think, may have been Neo, if you'd like to take opportunity to respond on any questions about the future of employment, and any of the other questions you may wish to offer comment on that you see in the chat box. You're welcome to offer comment, please, Neo.
There was a question about how we will handle big data as this data will be coming from private sectors. I think we should address the data issues with the private sector by placing integrated statistical systems, because, like I mentioned, we now need to be empowered as national statistics officers with the skills we need to mine the data. There will be a lot of data, and we need to be empowered to do that, and we need to work together with the private sector. Thank you.
If I can come in, Marcus.
Sure.
Yeah, so here I think this is the time for us to, as we are thinking of the future, to see how to build more partnership within data producers in, let's say, in a country. So now here I'm talking about national statistical systems that should be reinforced, integrating not only the public domain, but also private data producers. I think if partnership is built now, if confidence is built now, I think we can build on that to get the data, in the coming future. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Adam. I wonder if Kristen wishes to respond to any of the questions in the chat box, as I really tried my best to skim through them, but they're coming thick and fast. If you'd like an opportunity to respond, Kristen, please go ahead.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much. So I've just found a question, and it links directly with something you mentioned earlier, data as a new commodity, and is it going to be traded like a good? I guess we're already seeing this happening with many. Facebook. Off the top of my head, I can't think of anyone else right now, but we know that our personal data is being traded. So and again, I can't remember who was the first person to say it, but a few years ago, The Economist said data is the new oil. It is important. You can analyze it. You can draw conclusions from it. So data, that's where the power really lies. However, I've found a really interesting question here as well, which is around data and how can we ensure that it will be used for the common good. And that really is an important question that we've been trying to ask from a geospatial perspective as well when it comes to data ethics. Quite often you can't put legislation in place. So there is this question of what are the ethical guidelines that we're putting in place to ensure that we can work with information, but we're all working according to a common set of rules that we have agreed on. And one, I've just quickly looked for the study. So there was a study conducted in 2013 that looked at human mobility data. And there was a comparison that doing forensic sciences in the 1930s, it was said that you need 12 points of a fingerprint to identify a person as a unique individual. However, this study of mobility data highlighted that you only need 3 points in order to identify an individual that moves within a distance of about 100 kilometers. So there is a real question about data is available, and as soon as you start analyzing it, you can tell so much about an individual, and where do you stop? Where does data privacy come in? Will it violate human rights? It probably could. And I'm not sure that there is an easy answer to how do we ensure that it will be used for the common good. I'm not sure I can really provide an answer, but there are a lot of questions that need to be addressed in the next decade.
Thank you, Kristen. I just wondered if Muna wanted to take opportunity on some of the questions with respect to big data and so on, or any question in the chat box. Muna, would you like to take the floor?
Actually, I told you I can't see the chat box. I don't know, it's disappeared. But can you read it for me or something? If you find something related to me, maybe I can answer.
It wasn't so much tourism in particular, but it was kind of a question on big data overtaking data in general. If any other my colleagues in the regional commissions wanted to paraphrase the same question, I welcome that comment for Muna's sake.
Yeah, there is another question on the trade-off between privacy and data by 2051 also. That may be Muna can
privacy. I think I mentioned that in the last slide. And we need to have a partnership with not only the private sector, but also with individuals, because we cannot use their data. They will sue us in the end. So I think in the future, maybe there's a way we can get, we do a contract with these individuals, plus society, plus private sector, because as I told you, they are the owner of this data. So for statistics, we will not go and get that data without their permission, of course.
Thank you, Muna. Well, go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, so also here, if I can add, I think there should be here a kind of, we need to develop the culture of data sharing even among individuals. Let me explain myself. So basically, I think I see here that national statistical offices do have a role to play. For example, we are talking about users' engagement on our continent here in Africa. So if users are engaged in their national statistical system, that's the data production, data use, etc. So they know that when they provide this data, this is how the data will be used. Data will not be disseminated individually, but grouped, and then the trend will be shown to the public. So we also need to how to put it? We need to educate the population about the data use. Then they will become more confident in sharing their personal data. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. I wonder now, Stefan, if you'd like to offer comment. You're welcome to spur on the conversation. We're 6 minutes over time. I wonder if we want to go another few minutes, if you want to spur us on a little bit further. Okay, I'll hold the floor for a little bit longer and we'll keep going with questions. Thanks for the body language, Stefan. I'm not seeing any. I wonder how best to manage these questions that keep coming in. I see one from Oliver Chinganya on questioning how we can engage with statisticians in the private sector to participate in the UN Statistical Commission. Those in the private sector may be key in leveraging and influencing technology and innovation in national statistical offices now and in the future. I think the tone of the question is touching on use of the private sector at the UN Statistical Commission. It was worded as a comment rather than a question. And other issues here raised are things like raw data being used by national statistical officers. Stefan, did you want to step in at this point?
I just noticed there are two hands. I don't know whether it'll be possible to let somebody speak. I'd be curious. I can hang on a little bit longer, and then I'll give a 6-hour concluding remarks.
I'm struggling to see whose the hands are. David Rossis, you were just telling me now you could see.
Yeah.
Please identify the hands, people with hands up.
Yeah, Dorcas Kereti and Andrew Chililo. They have their hands up. So,
okay. So maybe...
Dorcas, please. Dorcas Kereti.
You need to unmute yourself, Dorcas, and then you can speak. The unmute button is next to the leave button, 2 to the left.
All right, it may be an accident.
Andrew Chililo. Yeah, it's possible. Andrew Chililo.
Well, thank you very much. Am I audible? That side.
Yes, go ahead.
All right. Thanks. My name is Andrew Chililo. I am a young statistician from Africa. I'm representing African young statisticians. My comment or my contribution or my question is on the geospatial information. I work in the geographic information space in Statistics South Africa. I'm a geographic information system specialist there. But my observation, as the presenter was going through the presentation there, saying that geographic information system has played a vital role in the past and presently and still is going to play a vital role in the future. But my observation in statistics is that there is a separation, there's a line that has been drawn between statisticians and those who are working in the geospatial information. And this divide, it made the geospatial information to sort of take a back seat in the National Statistics Office, as I see it. So I think there is a need, particularly in Africa, to sort of build a very strong geographic information system or geospatial information system that is integrated into statistical information for better decision making. Since a geospatial information system is still going to play a critical role in the future. The other thing again, I see that there is an effort at the highest level, at the UN level, to integrate geospatial information and the statistics. But this information or this effort is not coming down to national statistic offices where we will see these two streams or these two disciplines working hand in hand or very closely. And another comment I wanted to make is that how can Africa, or a question, how can Africa be able to develop a goal-oriented spatial data infrastructure as opposed to a short-term spatial data infrastructure? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrew. My only immediate comment would be that I'm aware of some national statistical offices where the geospatial information sits within the same institution as the National Statistical Office. I can think of, I think that's somewhat done in Australia, and I know Mexico, for instance. But I think maybe Mark Iliff, from who's providing secretarial services, if you'd wish to offer comment, Mark, now might be your opportunity, please.
I think Mark needed to leave the meeting, but maybe Kristen wants to take the question.
Yes, I can try. I'm sure it's not going to be as good as Mark's response. I think you made a really important point, and unfortunately, I have to say that even in the United Kingdom, statistical information and geospatial are not. We're not in the same organization, and it's true. It's incredibly difficult to work together. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure whether I really have almost an answer to how best to go about it. How can I'm aware that in the United Kingdom, the Office for National Statistics has created their own geospatial team that looks exactly into how can they integrate geospatial information with, for example, demographic information and make sense of information in that way in order to visualize it. However, I think that I don't think I can think of a better way to approach it than the UNGGIM work that has been done on integrating statistical and geospatial information. And I'm not sure how best to go about it to really, as you've mentioned, to really make sure that it's coming down to the country level as well. So it's a shame that Mark has left, I'm afraid.
That's okay, Kristen. You did your level best. I mean, that's fine. Of course, thank you for sharing your comment. Maybe I'll give one more opportunity to Dorcas.
Can I say something regarding this one?
Yeah. Please, Mona.
We in the United Arab Emirates, in the Federal Competitiveness and Statistics Center, we have a full department for algorithm and data analysis. And part of that, they included the GIS team. And so we are always linking our data with the GIS and have maps. For example, for the tourism, we already have maps that have all our tourists, the inbound tourists that come to our country assigned in the map, and all the locations. So we are trying to match our statistics, whatever we have in statistic, serious data, we put it in GIS, and it's worked for us. We really like it. When we have outside presentations, sometimes we only use the GIS maps to present our data. So I think in the future, all statistics centers need to have GIS team working with them. That's it.
Just one quick thing that I've remembered that might be helpful. So what is currently happening in the UK is we have a government body, which is the Geospatial Commission, that has actually started working groups in order to ensure that organizations such as Ordnance Survey and the statistical body are working more closely together. So that there may be an opportunity that if it comes from a policy perspective to actually put working groups together and ask these organizations to start working together more closely, rather than a top-down approach, then a bottom-up might be the answer.
Thanks, Kristen. I'll just give one more chance to Dorcas to ask a quick question if possible, and then after that I'll see if we can answer it, and then probably throw to Stefan to help us close the event. Please, Dorcas, now's your opportunity.
Okay, thank you so much. I hope you can hear me now.
Yes.
Fantastic. So yes, my name is Dorcas, and together with Andrew, we represent the Young African Statisticians. And I only have 2 comments, which can also be posed as questions. So first of all, I'd like to appreciate the United Nations body for putting together this side event. And I also like to acknowledge that most of the people here are actually young statisticians. So my question is geared towards youth inclusion and capacity building. By the year 2051, most of us will no longer be young statisticians, right? So what measures are we putting in place? Do we have programs that are being put in place to ensure that by the time we reach 2051, with all these things that we are talking about, the digital transformation, the big data, integrating statistical systems. Are we building enough capacity, not only for the youth and in this case, particularly for Africa, are we building enough capacity for youth, and are we giving chance for the generation that is meant to come after us to understand some of the things that revolve around processing of official data, global statistics, all the statistics? What are we doing, and what can be done actually to ensure that there is no transitional gap between our generation and the next generation of young people? Thank you.
Thanks, Dorcas. I'll give it a really quick response and then maybe throw to Stefan. I mean, my best comment at this point in time is that capacity development's among the 4 core functions of the UN Statistics Division, and it's something that the UN Statistics Division would liaise with countries or other interested parties to promote and develop. I don't have a better answer for that question at this point in time.
Yes, Oliver, Mr. Chinganyo Oliver, the director of the African Center for Statistics, is connected, so maybe you might give him the floor to make comments on those.
Oliver, if he's available. Please, Oliver, if you're there.
Please unmute yourself.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you very much. I was actually trying to type something once I heard the question that came from the lady. But thank you so much for allowing me to intervene a little bit. Now, what have we done on the continent? We have pressed now the Young Statistician Program within the Africa Statistical Commission from last year. And what we are trying to do is actually we're broadening just to include those beyond the national statistical offices to be part of that young statisticians program. So the thinking around that is that the young statisticians will be meeting a day before the commission to discuss issues, which will then inform the bigger commission which runs for 3 days. And we're trying to see how we can actually embrace, the larger, the extent of the young statisticians beyond just those coming from the National Statistical Office. And capacity building is going to be critical. Mentoring is going to be part of it. And in particular, the female young statisticians, we've actually noticed that each time we send out applications, we get very, very few applications from the women, from the female candidates. So we're trying to come up with a deliberate program that sort of encourages them to apply, encourages them to be part of this young statisticians movement that we've started. So Edem is actually leading that process in Africa, and we're looking forward to the young statisticians being part of this movement that we've started at ECA. Thank you very much. I hope that helps.
Thank you, Oliver. I'd like to pass over to Stefan Schweinfest to offer any comments he wishes and to close our event. Please, Stefan.
Yeah, well, the good news is when you see my nose, you know you're close to the end. Let me just say, there was a moment where somebody was talking about all the rising stars here in the team, and somebody getting a prize for a rising star. I got a little bit scared here that I soon will get a prize for the descending star, but that's okay, because that is how the world works. So I saw the number over 300. I definitely had fun, and I hope so had you. I always say a crisis is an opportunity. So I was very heartened by somebody, I think Pancha said it, that you were connecting to the Statistical Commission with this online Statistical Commission. Younger people had the opportunity to connect, and I hope you were not scared away, but you will stay connected. Great presentation. Thank you very much, Muna, Pancha, Neo, and Christine. The whole world was represented. Beautiful job also by my colleagues to bring in voices from all over the world. And I think it makes me very optimistic about the future of the global statistical system, because I mean, it was really teamwork on the level of the United Nations, the team that put it together. Thanks again. Marcus, Alex, and all others, David, you brought in a little multilingual element that was also great, and the teamwork around the world, that's great. Now, we heard a lot of things. I mean, there was a little bit of science fiction and space and Martians and so on. That's fine. I think that's all going to be part of the future. But the one thing that I really, really, really liked was all of your reflections on the fundamentals. I mean, there was a bit of talk about artificial intelligence and can we handle all the data, or will the data handle us at some point in the future? There was this issue. Everybody recognized that data is going to be a source of great power and a source of value, economic value. And for me, that means it's also an object of great responsibility. And I think this community has a very important job to manage this responsibility that comes with the data in the future. And I had actually put in the word data governance as what would be the most important topic to talk about in 2050 in the survey. So I think you touched on really all of the important topics, and I'm really heartened by your engagement and dedication and your interest, and especially the African voices. Africa is leading us. And I was really thankful also to Dorcas to reminding us of the next generation even. I mean, she was almost opening the window to the Statistical Commission 2080, 30 years from because you will be senior statisticians in 2050, and you will have to organize an event like this one to make sure in 2080 responsible people are still around to manage it. Because the one thing that you also reminded me of that will never change, data is ultimately for people. I mean, it is, some people mentioned our motto for this World Statistics Day in 2020. Oh, well, now I'm getting confused. 15. Better data, better lives. I mean, that's what it is all about. And that will never change. And we need responsible people to manage this. So the one thing that I want to say to you at the end, apart from thank you around the world for engaging, is please stay tuned. We need you. And there are many opportunities. Africa has this Young Statisticians program. Maybe other continents will be inspired to do something similar. We have the IAOS I mentioned at the beginning, the International Association of Official Statistics, that has an extensive youth and young people's statisticians program. And we have our data officer network. So there are many opportunities, and please stay tuned, stay connected. And then I'm really not worried about the future at all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'd like to close it and say thank you to everyone as well. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.